This video will be focusing on deeper, more student-centered learning. It is being made in collaboration with the UK Next Gen Changemakers program, but will also be utilized in Hopkins County Deeper Learning PLC meetings and professional developments. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Melanie Hoffman. I am the VPA teacher at Jesse Stewart Elementary School. I am on the District Deeper Learning team and also on the Jesse Stewart Eagles Deeper Learning team. I have been teaching visual and performing arts for 19 years in Hopkins County, but today I will be talking to you about the need for a shift in the way we do education from a traditional industrial model to a deeper student-centered model. So first, let's ask the question, why this shift? I was recently asked after 19 years of teaching art about my why. Why do I do what I do? My Hopkins County friends probably know this question really well. This is a challenge given by our superintendent that through everything we do, we remember our why. It's a great reminder of why we do what we do. At a board meeting at the end of last school year, I was given the opportunity to share my why with the community. This is what I said. My why as a VPA teacher in Hopkins County is to instill an understanding and appreciation for creativity and expression in our students. Cultivating this love of art and creativity in the next generation will allow the vibrant landscape of visual arts, music, theater, and dance to continue to thrive. So many of my students over the past 19 years have found their passion in the arts. Students who excel in creativity become our future artists, performers, and patrons of the arts. With this foundational understanding and appreciation of the arts, our Hopkins County students will grow to enrich the cultural tapestry of our community and will affect change globally as critical thinkers and problem solvers. So, in simpler terms, my why is my students. I would bet that is most of your whys too. So when asked why we are making this shift, this foundational shift in education, and asked why change things, we need to remember our why. We do what is best for our students. I have committed to do what is best for my students and practice deeper, more student-centered learning in my classroom, and I hope through this video you will too. We must remember that deeper learning helps our students become critical problem solvers and build those critical problem-solving skills. They become critical thinkers, which is so important globally. We also want to remember that students need to be able to have grit and endurance and don't give up easily and throw in the towel when facing adversity. This style of education fashions lifelong learners. When given the keys to their own learning and put in the driver's seat of their own education, students are given the ability to go where they want, research topics that interest to them, and flourish in a way that is just not seen in a traditional industrial model of education. We see passion projects and real-world applications rather than memorize facts and filled-in boxes on lines and worksheets. I challenge anyone to give me a detailed description of that awesome worksheet you did that one time in third grade. It's not possible because there's just no agency in it. This brings my mind to the works of Marcia Tate. If you do not know who Marcia Tate is or have never experienced a PD with Marcia Tate, go. She breaks down years of brain research and thoroughly explains why worksheets don't grow dendrites or produce learning experiences that go into long-term memory. She once said, "I've often expressed frustration with the current educational process. Too much sit and get, too many lectures, too many worksheets, not enough critical thinking, not enough problem solving, not enough authenticity. We know better. We have the research. We understand how the brain works, and yet we choose to ignore it." I've heard one researcher call this ignoring of the brain, how the brain works, educational malpractice. That is such a powerful statement, but it's true. Why waste your time or your students' time on something that is not going to stick? We need learning that sticks. We need learning for transfer. We need educational experiences that remain with students, allowing students to take what has been learned in one situation and apply it to another. So we need quality learning that sticks for life. To illustrate this idea of learning that sticks, this past week I asked one of our rising sixth graders who is leaving our building to go to middle school what projects throughout elementary school were her favorites. Just any projects that stood out in her brain that she could remember. These are the 4 that stood out. The first one was a living wax museum project that she completed this past school year in 5th grade. The next one was a paper mache project she completed in 5th grade art. The next one was a science fair project that she completed in 4th grade. And lastly, it was a book report that she did in 2nd grade. After talking with her, I found out one thing that had commonality between all of these very different projects, all done in different classrooms with different teachers. And they were all deeper learning, student-centered approach lessons. The Living Wax Museum project allowed her to choose any famous person, current or past, to research, write a bio on, memorize facts about their lives, dress like that person, present her bio of that person to the community. As you can see, that famous person was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And when I was talking to her, she still remembered every fact that she had memorized for that presentation. It stuck. Her paper mache project in 5th grade allowed her to use the skills we learned in class about the media and the process, but she was able to translate that into any work of her choosing. She chose to make a horse mask, which she says is now on display in her room, but was entered into the district art show, earning her a front page spot on our local newspaper, which really thrilled her and is an experience that she'll never forget. The science fair project she completed in 4th grade was 100% student choice. She loves music, so she decided to find a way to tie music into her experiment. So she wanted to research how different string instruments produce different sounds, and she was still able to discuss those results with me 2 years later. Lastly, a book report that she completed in 2nd grade, she told me she was given a choice of any book. She just was required to discuss the literary elements in the book. She could have written the book report. She could have made a digital presentation like a slideshow. She could have made a poster. One fun option, since it was around Halloween, was to paint a pumpkin like one of the main characters and then discuss the literary elements using that pumpkin as a visual. After digging through some digital clutter and some shared drives, I was able to find her 2nd grade report. So let's travel back 4 years in time and watch this student's 2nd grade book report. She decided to paint a pumpkin and then make a video describing those elements.
I'm going to talk to you about the case of the missing mother. The characters in this book is like Kermit, Fozzie, Piggy, and Animal, and basically pretty much all the Muppets. The setting is the Muppet Theater, Memory Lane, and Animal's mom's house. The problem is Animal does not want to play his drums anymore, and he cannot find his mom's address. The solution is they find Animal, they follow the drum sound, and that leads to Animal's mom's new home. My favorite part is when the Animal and his mom see each other again. That is the case of the missing mother. Bye!
Oh my goodness, that was adorable. So, as you can see, we want to celebrate and honor and encourage that type of creativity in our students. We want to celebrate uniqueness and diversity of each of our students and allow each student to have their own path. If you look at the table below, you can see on one side is industrial factory model in education, and the other one is a student-centered, more deeper learning model or approach. On one side, the old way of doing things, the factory industrial model, students are sitting in straight rows, listening to lectures, sit and kit style, memorizing just facts and simply just writing down those facts and remembering them for tests. The student-centered model includes flexible, small group seating, much more flexible use of space. It also uses peer discussion, passion projects. Students are not doing the same thing at the same time. Each have a roadmap to their own learning. In the industrial factory model, we see that students are mainly learning from a textbook. But in the student-centered model, students have a wide range of materials. The sky's the limit. We can get community involvement, support from stakeholders. We can do field trips and learning outside of the classroom. This better equips them to be lifelong learners and navigate our ever-changing world and the many problems in our global community that need to be solved. Then we have assessments. In the factory industrial model, we're typically just seeing a week-long unit or a week-long of lecturing, taking notes, and then assessing at the end of the week. Whether students were 100% successful or not, the entire class moved on to the next lesson, even if there were gaps in understanding and mastery. Sal Khan, in his TED Talk, Let's Teach for Mastery, Not Test Scores, said, on this traditional model, the teacher will give a lecture, then the students will do homework, then they take a test, and one student might get a 75%, another get a 95%. There's obviously identified gaps in the material. Even the student that made an A missed 5% of that material. And instead of going over those gaps in the traditional model, they would just move on, building on those gaps, possibly moving on to a subject that they needed some information from those gaps and they have a weak foundation. And this causes students to hit a wall and disengage. We can't do this to our students. In the student-centered approach, we have students that are taking time to master the material before they move on. We might see learning defenses, learning exhibitions, having to prove mastery of content before moving on, and they're able to do that in their own time. In the industrial factory model, you also see very tight schedules with very little time for reteaching. But in the student-centered model, students set goals for themselves and are given that flexibility to be able to set goals and meet goals on their own time. In the industrial factory model, we also see that this teacher chooses what is done in the classroom. They're the only one driving instruction. They set all expectations and goals. In a student-centered model, an instructional framework is used across all schools in the district and in all classrooms, discussed in all PLCs, and are developed by teachers, students, administrators, community members, and other stakeholders. This framework guides what they want for their graduates and their learners. Teachers watching this in Hopkins County know what this looks like for our district. This is our Hopkins County Future Ready characteristics of successful graduates. Students, teachers, administrators, community members, and other stakeholders worked on putting these characteristics together, and through this effort, learning has made a shift in Hopkins County to a more student-centered, deeper learning model, and we're gaining on that every day. Students are learning to take real-world problems and find solutions to them. Our future depends on our students learning these globally important skills. With a shift in the way we're doing education, there will also be a shift in the role of teachers and students. When we are looking at the role of teachers and students, teachers will shift into the role of more of a mentor or coach. Teachers will help guide students on their path and help them stay on their path and mentor them and monitor their progress, but will not be the sole source of students' content information. They will provide feedback. They will still be there for the students. However, the students will be taking ownership of their learning. They will be creating their path of learning. They will design the learning experience that fits their needs. They will have voice and choice. They will be problem solvers. I've talked so much today about how important that is in a student-centered model. But hey, you don't have to just take my word for it. I have asked some truly amazing rock star teachers from Hopkins County to step into this video for me and talk to you about how important they feel student-centered model and student-centered learning is for our district. So I would like to take a minute and let you watch those.
Hello, I'm Wendy Mitchell with Hopkins County Schools. I'm the Director of Elementary Education and Title I. I believe it is critical to shift gears in our school systems to a student-centered model for learning and assessment. We are no longer living in the days where simply memorizing facts and being able to regurgitate on a standardized test are cutting it in the job force. At Hopkins County Schools, we have developed the 6 characteristics of a future ready graduate, and those characteristics are critical in the workforce. Students need to be able to collaborate, communicate, show innovation, creativity, work together, problem solve, and communicate. None of those skills can be measured simply by taking a standardized test or writing a 3-paragraph essay. It is important that we embed the student-centered active learning task in everything we do. And even though those are called the characteristics of future ready graduates, they don't start in 9th and 10th grade. Those skills must start in preschool and kindergarten to prepare students not just for the workforce, but for our society and the changes that are happening in our world.
Hi, I'm Heather Gordon. I teach 5th grade. In my opinion, we're at a crucial time to transition our classrooms into a student-centered learning model more than ever because we need to engage our students. Students that are not engaged lack the intrinsic desire to even learn. So once we have their engagement in place, then we're able to empower them in their learning. Providing opportunities of students' voice and choice, challenges, and a time to even pursue their own individual interest not only keeps them engaged, but allows them to take ownership into their own learning. And once they've invested themselves and they feel supported and empowered, then the sky is the limit for each individual student at that point. So for me, student-centered learning only produces student-centered growth.
Hi, I'm Brooke Stewart and I teach kindergarten. Education needs to make the shift to deeper learning to teach students how to critically think, how to problem solve, and how to be adaptable for the real world. It prepares students for future jobs that demand creativity and innovation rather than just rote memorization. Deeper learning also enhances engagement and motivation through project-based learning, experimental activities, leading to better retention and application of knowledge. It supports personalized learning, catering to the individual needs and interests. Overall, education needs to make this shift more relevant and effective in preparing students for the challenges.
Hi, my name's Ashton Wheatstein and I teach 1st grade. I think that education really needs to make a shift towards a student-centered, deeper learning model because I think it's going to create lifelong learners who are passionate and curious about the unknown, and they never really lose their sense of wonder to explore and dig deeper and connect with others.
My name is Jacqueline Howard. I teach kindergarten and have for 20 years. The deeper learning approach is one of the most amazing things to happen recently that I feel like is being pushed, and I'm so thankful. In kindergarten, I couldn't imagine not providing those experiences for kindergartners. We have the young ones of the school. It's our job to sell education or to make them love school. I want them to understand that when they come to school, they do have choices. They do get to pick things that they like. They need to feel seen, feel heard. And I feel like when we do those projects, or whenever we produce or provide those opportunities, they don't even feel like they're learning, and they are, but they feel like they're being rewarded and it's just a treat. Which it is, but it's a treat for me and them, but it's providing them with such a deeper understanding and love for learning. And I feel like that's my number one job as an educator.
I'm so thankful for those amazing teachers and administrators that took their time to talk to you about deeper learning. They are truly amazing and have already taken steps of deeper learning and student-centered learning into their classrooms. So I hope you found this breakdown on student-centered learning helpful. Most of you are probably viewing this in a PLC, so after you've had a chance to think about it and digest the information about student-centered learning or learning defenses or deeper learning, anything, please feel free to contact me. My contact information is right here. And if I don't know the answer, I know we can figure it out together. So thank you so much, and I hope you found this helpful. Goodbye.